It's enormous.
They're a clean slate.
It creates hope and excitement for the organization and the fans.
You know, people this year will say that the top of the draft is weaker than past years, and that's true. You know, there's no no-brainer number one prospect. There's no Zion Williamson. There's not even a Karl Anthony Towns, but there are a lot of quality prospects, and by having a higher draft pick, you naturally get to, you know, have a sooner selection for whatever that guy is that you might prefer. So for Charlotte, you know, they're a clean slate.
It's enormous. This is a seminal moment for the Charlotte Hornets franchise. It has been so long since they've been able to move up in the draft, since they've had a pick in the top three. Everybody knows in the NBA, you need that all-star player as the face of your franchise. And quite frankly, if you have a pick in the top three, you're a lot more likely to land that all-star. Yes, there is Giannis and there's Kawhi and there's Jimmy Butler. You can find guys later in the draft, but you look at the odds and you look at the probability of landing a star, you're almost certain to get one in the top three if you pick there enough. The Hornets haven't picked there in a while, so they've got to hit on this one. It's a critical pick for them to get it right. There's some talented players at the top of the draft, but you look at the last 10 years and the guys that have gone number three. You've got Luka Doncic. You've got Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Bradley Beal. A while back, there was a guy from North Carolina named Michael Jordan that went number three as well. So this is clearly a huge pick for the Hornets, and hopefully they can land a superstar to be the face of their franchise for years to come.
Well, anytime you get this high a draft pick, it creates hope and excitement for the organization and the fans, and it gives Mitch Kupchak, you know, leverage to work this pick, and I think that's important. You know, a lot of blame or a lot of credit goes to the GM, but he can only do as much as he can do based on where he's drafting. At number three, he has leverage. He has the opportunity to do some great things here, and I think it creates a lot of excitement up until that draft night and then after.
To me, it's a best player available mindset for most teams, and especially for Charlotte. I think it's about finding the guy that you think points you in the direction that you want to go in terms of team building. We just saw 2 years in a row the NBA Finals champions with the Raptors. They had Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka with long, you know, big guys on their team. Then we saw the Lakers with AD and LeBron. Obviously, they're top five players, and, you know, LeBron's one of the greatest ever. But overall, that was a big team. And this year for the Hornets, there's, you know, an opportunity for some bigger guys, whether it's a thick wing like Anthony Edwards or a true big like James Wiseman. So for Kupchak, I'm excited to see how they're going to choose to signal the coordinates for what they're going to do.
The Hornets are in a position where they need to draft the best player they possibly can. This is still an incredibly young team. James Borrego has done such a great job at developing some of those talented young kids. Obviously, Devontae Graham, arguably the most improved player in the NBA last season. You saw the growth from P.J. Washington, Miles Bridges. They've got a good young core, but it's really important for them to get just the most talented basketball player they can and then figure out how the pieces are going to fit together over the next 3 to 4 years. They're not drafting for 2020. They're drafting for 2023, 24, and 25. This is a long-term plan in Charlotte, and you want to get the best player possible who has the highest ceiling.
In this year's draft, there's no clear-cut number one choice. There are three prospects that are all vying for that number one pick. And all three have question marks, but all three do have franchise-changing talent that needs to be developed over the course of time. There's not a Zion Williamson out there. There's not an Anthony Davis. But there are three prospects that I believe that can help a franchise and elevate that franchise to the next level.
Yeah, I've got two of these guys in my top three, LaMelo and Anthony Edwards, these two here. And, you know, all three of them are probably the most likely guys to go in the top three. But you talk to one executive on one team, they love LaMelo. They view LaMelo as the game's next great playmaker. You know, he's a wizard with the ball. They say, yeah, of course, the shot needs to improve, but he's so young, who cares? You talk to the next team, they say, why have LaMelo in the top 10? He doesn't play defense. The shot is too iffy. He doesn't have good shot selection. Can you trust him to really learn an offense? So that's true everywhere throughout the draft. The top prospects, Edwards, Ball, Wiseman, the consensus top three, if you want to call it a consensus, and guys who are considered sleepers. This year, more than any year I've been covering the draft since 2013, has know consensus from the top to the bottom. And that's going to make it a really fascinating draft night, because whether it's Charlotte or whether it's somebody else, I would be willing to bet there's going to be a surprise pick near the top of the draft.
It's going to really test which organizations have the best scouting departments and who is really buttoned up and organized and who can take advantage of the resources that they do have, who can use the film that we've got from the college level, even going back for some of these kids to high school, some of these one and done kids, and just using the tools that you have available. It's going to make for a real, I think, a frenetic draft night where you're going to have a lot of players who you don't have as much information on, and you're going to be maybe going on a little bit more of your gut. But Mitch Kupchak said several months ago that he felt like if he had to draft today, he could have drafted. That was months ago. He felt like they were in a good spot. So hopefully that's the case when the draft rolls around in November, because not having those workouts and some of the testing that you normally have is definitely a disadvantage. It's going to put these scouting departments to the test.